You're listening to Packers Talk Network.
Packers Talk.
You're listening to No Huddle Radio on the Packers Talk Radio Network, your home for in-depth and thoughtful Packers analysis. I'm your host, Gil Martin. My co-host is my good friend, Sean Tehan. In addition to this show, I write for the PackersPost.com and Cheesehead TV. Sean was a TV sportscaster in Minnesota. We're here to talk Packers because you're all here for one thing, and that's a love for Green Bay football. Sean, how's it going? We're getting close to draft time.
Yeah, it always seems like it's a bit of a slog this time of year. But then after the draft, then we got to wait for the regular season. To get ready for the regular season, our show's sponsor, Wisconsin's own Ticket King. They got you covered for more than 30 years. Ticket King has been providing Packers tickets to Packer fans, as well as Bucks, Brews, and Summerfest tickets. Find them on the web at theticketking.com or visit their locations in Green Bay and Milwaukee. That's theticketking.com. And you can watch every episode of No Huddle Radio on Packers Talk Network on YouTube. You go to YouTube, type Packers Talk Network in the search bar, click on the PackersTalk.com link with the green background, the yellow goalpost, click on the bell, subscribe, turn notifications on, join the discussion, chat with us live. And Gil, I feel like there's going to be a lot to discuss coming forward where in the preparation of the new season where the NFL owners, they're going to be getting together pretty soon, discussing potential rule changes, something that was on the table last year that was proposed by the Packers, the tush push. Sounds like that's not going to be a topic of discussion this upcoming week, which is whatever. I just
disappointing.
We'll get to it. I thought definitely it would come back to the table but I don't know, maybe one more year and that's going to be it. But Gil, obviously there are going to be some rule changes that are probably going to happen. Some that are being proposed, including kicking team. If they can declare an onside kick at any time during the game. Right now, I believe it's only in the fourth quarter, and when a team is trailing, that could change. Obviously, coming up this upcoming week, eliminate the kicking team's incentive to intentionally kick the ball out of bounds when kicking off from the 50-yard line. Right now, we've seen that where team gets a penalty, team gets a kickoff from the 50. And they kick it out of bounds right away. And then the receiving team only gets at the 25 as opposed to the 35. It's a little bit of a loophole. So obviously that's something that may change. Modifying kickoff alignment requirements for receiving team, allowing league personnel to consult with on-field officials when considering disqualifications for flagrant football and non-football acts without being called on the field. And then for 1 year only, Gil, this is interesting because there could be a work stoppage when it comes to the referees. Allow NFL officiating department to correct clear and obvious misses made by on-field officials, which will impact or would impact the game in the event if there's a work stoppage involving the full-time ref. So, Gil, all these potential rule proposals and rule changes, how will these proposed NFL changes impact the Green Bay Packers? Obviously, the tush push is staying put, so we're not even going to really discuss that, but how could this impact the Packers coming up?
Well, look, I mean, I think being able to do an onside kick at any time is too logical to not do. I mean, It's strategy. It makes sense. I mean, the odds of recovering it are not very good anyway. So I kind of,
unless you're playing the Packers.
Yeah, right. Unless you're playing, well, hopefully the change in special teams coordinator will reduce the occurrences of failing to recover an onside kick. But I never understood why you would want to take that option away from teams, especially if it's such a low percentage play. And I don't even like having to declare it. I mean, a surprise onside kick is a cool thing. And sometimes it even used to work.
It worked. Hey, think about it. It worked in Super Bowl 44 between the Saints and the Colts, where Sean Payton dialed up a surprise onside kick, and that completely turned the game in the favor of the Saints, and they ended up winning the Super Bowl that year. So, this is kind of I feel like that's kind of a no-brainer, Gil, where that's something that's going to happen more often. You wonder, I think that rule change could potentially impact the Packers the most because you're playing a team like Detroit twice a year with Dan Campbell, who likes to take gambles all the time. And I feel like anytime his team is trailing whatsoever, especially with how decimated their defensive units have been the last few years, he's just going to kick an onside every chance he can get. I feel like that could have a huge impact in the divisional games for the Packers coming up.
It absolutely could. And, I wish the Packers had a head coach and maybe the new special teams coordinator is more like this, but who's a little more daring, a little more thinking outside the box occasionally. But again, if you have to declare an onside kick, even if you want to do it on the opening kickoff, the odds of you succeeding once you declare it are lower because the other team knows it's coming. I would love to get rid of the declaration part of it as well.
Yeah.
Not holding my breath on that one just yet, but the element of surprise is a cool part of it. But you should be able to onside kick anytime, really.
It's all with the kickoff alignments now in the kick return game. That's why you have to declare it so then you could set up properly. That's different. And you wonder though, Gil, if you had, because there's been talk about potentially instead of declaring an onside kick, you have a 4th and 15, 4th and long yardage situation deep in your own territory, and that would replace potentially an onside kick. Would you rather have that, or would you rather have the onside kick? That's
you know what?
thing.
I'll straddle that line. I would like to try that in preseason one year. I think it would be a very cool, don't change the rule this year, but in the preseason, that's the rule. And then teams will try it because nobody cares who wins a preseason game. So you'll get that opportunity. And then I wonder about this. If you still have to declare an onside kick, can you declare it and then kick it away? Is that an option?
You wonder where it's it could be something where you squib it up the middle and you hope that you have the fastest guy in the field is on your side and you can go recover it and where the weak spot is. Or maybe you just try to do a quick little pooch kick. I think you could do something like that. But I mean, typically if you're going to kick it off deep, you wonder, that's interesting because I feel like where the NFL teams are taking advantage where they're kicking off from the 50 and kicking out of bounds, and then you would actually help the field position of your defense if you're the kicking team. I feel like that's a potential loophole right there too. It's we're going to declare an onside, but we're going to boot it deep anyway. That could be a loophole.
Yeah, declare an onside every time. Just keep the option open. I mean, that's why I hate the declaration part of it. But I understand the way they've made the teams line up and the way it works. They got to figure out something better. And maybe that 4th and 15 from your own 15, let's say, would be a more interesting option. And like I said, I think the best way to do that is to try it one preseason and then see how it works. And then a year later, if they like it, either tweak it or just implement it.
I think the NFL, they don't want to get too gimmicky, but the kickoff, the way it is right now, it's already kind of gimmicky in a way.
Yeah.
But I feel like we're kind of slowly building towards that. But I will say this though, Gil, as a Packer fan, you and I as Packer fans, having replacement refs scares the ever living crap out of me.
Can you say Fail Mary? I mean, the only good that came out of the Fail Mary was that the referees were back the following week because the NFL realized what a show the replacement refs became. And that famous photograph of one referee saying touchdown and the other one saying interception says it all, without any words. That was cost the Packers a game, and there was no way they should have lost that game. It was just dreadful officiating at that moment.
And you don't know how the season goes. It's a butterfly effect where if they end up winning that game and they call that interception correctly,
right?
You don't know what happens to the Packers after the year. But let's say if that game was turned where, hey, the Packers got to win that game, Packers would have had a first-round bye that year. They would have had a first-round bye in the playoffs if every game followed suit like it did after that.
Which you can't say that it would have, but
correct.
But that's how close it all is. And when you only played back then, it was 16 games. Now it's 17 games. I always kind of said a one-game winning streak in football in the NFL is like a 10-game winning streak in baseball.
Yeah.
Or a 20-game winning streak in baseball. So, it's 10 roughly. So, the impact of it is potentially huge.
Yeah, and with the replacement refs too, I just remember they clearly were swayed by the coaches who were more persuasive. That's where I didn't like Pete Carroll at USC because I thought he was a snake, and then I really didn't like him after that game because he was literally berating them and just telling them what call to make, and they're literally just like, okay, it's a touchdown, just to get Pete Carroll off their case, and that was that was so bogus. But I remember that too, where it's like when MD Jennings, he clearly had an interception. I will stand on that hill. I will die on that hill, and I just remember where people were saying, it's like, okay, like you're holding a baby. Someone comes and they like kind of put their hands around the baby. That's their baby now because that's the Golden Tate rule, So, which is, it was that ridiculous. And it
was a terrible call.
I just hope the NFL I hope it's not really building the plane as you fly it situation with this, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I hope they get a deal done with the current officials. I know how frustrating it can be. As a fan with some of the officiating and now with sports gambling and everything so heavily involved in the sport that there's a lot of questioning and you have slow down replay that just, everything is dissected so fine. It's so finely and everything like that. So I just hope we get the regular officials back because I don't want 2013 to happen again. I can't handle that.
You can't go back to that. And the fans should be flooding the NFL offices with photographs and videos and emails featuring that call because you don't want to go back to that. And, look, we criticize the officials all the time, but two things you got to realize. Number one, it's a hard job. And we see replays and slow motion and 3 different angles. It's happening for them. One angle, real time, make the call. And then the other thing is, as inconsistent as they can be, they're still better than anybody else out there. Yeah. So you don't want to go back to that under any circumstances.
Gil, what do you think is the most likely rule proposal that gets changed coming up?
I think being able to declare an onside kick anytime is a no-brainer. I think that makes the most sense. And closing the loophole on the kicking out of bounds. So those two, I think, should be pretty uncontroversial.
I'm going to be interested with the declaring of an onside kick. I bet there's going to be some language in there where it's like you have to kick it within this range or like you can't kick it beyond. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the landing zone with the kickoff where it has to land there or else the return team gets it at the 40. And I feel like there's going to be some kind of extended rule beyond that so teams just don't boot it deep, Yeah. That just feels like where we're trending. Now, I do want to mention, though, real quick, also other key matters up for review. This is more personnel stuff, allowing players on the reserve or PUP list to begin a 21-day practice period after a team's second game, which would definitely benefit the Packers with Michael Parsons. Give him that ramp up. It sounds like he may be back in mid to late September, hopefully, and that could be a perfect thing there. And then the Browns, they're proposing allowing draft selections to be traded up to 5 seasons in the future. Currently, you could trade up to 3 for future first-round draft picks. And the Browns have a guy in Myles Garrett who obviously just broke the single-season sack record last year. So that could have an impact where you're trading a lot of future draft capital for sure, where that could be interesting. But, Gil, is there maybe something, though, that obviously we think the onside kick, you can declare that anytime that's going to happen. Is there any rule that's being proposed or not being proposed that you want changed?
Oh boy, yeah, that pup thing sounds very good. When you mention that, and about the draft pick thing, I don't mind them being able to trade 5 years out, but I think there should be a limit on the number of picks you can trade that far in advance.
Yeah, I think that's mostly for first round. That's for first round picks, but yeah, you got to cap it where it's like you can trade up to 5 years, but you can only trade 7 total picks or something like that.
I would even say 3, like beyond 3 years, maybe get only 2 or 3, because you could see a team just going for broke and just,
What the LA Rams have done, that's LA Rams have done that repeatedly over the years. They're very much in I don't care about those picks mode. And then I will say this, Gil, it's not up for discussion. I don't know why it's never been up for discussion. We talk about the tush push and all that stuff. We talked about it last year way too much, but I want offsides to be reviewable. I feel like it's such a black and white thing where it's like offsides in hockey, where it's like, hey, you can tell if the man crosses the blue line before the puck does.
Right.
It's that simple. And I feel like in football too, you can challenge 12 men on the field. You can review that. Why can't you review offsides? That's an interesting thing where it's like, hey, is the player across before the ball snapped, or is the player on offense across the ball?
Or did he line up offside?
Correct. That's what I'm saying.
Either. But yeah, I mean, the only caveat I would put to that is, again, you need limitations because it would slow down the game a lot. Like if you still only have 2 challenges and a third if you get the first 2 right, fine. But I don't want to see, 12 challenges in a game for did this guy line up offside? You can't have that.
I feel like a sky judge would be perfect for that, though.
Yes.
Where they could literally, you have a camera angle that's right down the line. It's like, is the guy offsides? Is he across the ball?
Right.
But and then boom, and then you relay that to the team on the field.
Isn't there a marker on the line of scrimmage every play though? Isn't there a guy holding,
Yeah.
So you could put a camera on that.
You would think so. You would think so. It's $1 billion industry.
The technology is there. The question is the will there, and are they willing to implement it? It
is $1 billion industry, and I feel like that is as black and white. It's as black and white as 12 men on or off the field. I mean, literally, like you have people dissecting film where it's like, oh, that left foot was just on the field when the ball was snapped, and you can piece that together right there. I don't know. That's something where I feel like it's going to take something stupid in a Super Bowl to happen where there's a clear offsides that's not called, and they'll be like, oh, okay, like that should be reviewable now because that's how we are. That's how the NFL is. They're very reactionary. That's just, I don't know. I can go on and on about how offside should be reviewable, Gil. I could.
And you'd be right too.
Thank you. At least someone agrees with me.
There you go.
Well, let's get away from this talk of rules and everything like that because I feel like it's the Big Lebowski. This isn't Vietnam, Donnie. There are rules here, but this is the way it goes in the NFL. We talk about rules way more than we should. Let's finish up by grading the 2025 Packers offense. We've gone through the O-line, the quarterbacks, the running backs. So we have left receivers and tight ends. And let's start at tight end real quick, Gil. Let's start with Josh Wiley. Played in 8 games this past season, 5 catches for 36 yards, scored a touchdown. Overall, Gil, guy did his job. Wasn't really a liability, but wasn't spectacular. He's just an average NFL tight end. He's back with the Packers. He agreed to a new contract this year. Nothing crazy, but what grade do you give Josh Wiley from last year?
C+ is average. I'll go with C+.
Yeah, I gave him a C+ too. I think that's as basic as it gets, and it's not a slap in the face. He did his job, and he could be a much better blocker, obviously, but I feel like anyone can. And yeah, he's your 4th tight end for a reason. Yeah,
and he'll help on special teams.
Yeah, you hope so. You hope so. The special teams is always a question. So, John Fitzpatrick, 15 games this past year, 12 receptions, 72 yards, scored a touchdown. He unfortunately tore his Achilles late in the regular season at Chicago. He was dependable in the run game, though, as a blocking tight end, Gil. Not really a liability in the passing game, but didn't give you much. That's not his game. I like him as a 3rd tight end a lot. The Packers do, too, when they cut loose Ben Sims in favor of him. What's your grade for John Fitzpatrick from last year?
I'll stick with C+. It's close to a B-, but I just think, he did his job. And, he has potential. I hope he can return at some point in the coming season because that injury was pretty devastating. Yeah. But I'm sticking with a C+.
I'm going B- just because I thought he was a tick better than Josh Wiley. That's plain and simple. And I think a B- is a fair grade. Luke Musgrave, former 2nd-round pick of the Packers, 17 games last year. He was actually healthy, but only caught 24 passes for 252 yards. He did have 5 receptions of 20 or more yards. Explosive as a receiving tight end, but he just can't block, Gil. It's hard to grade him because I just don't think he's put in the right spot by the Packers, in my opinion. And I feel like he's a tight end who should not be on the line of scrimmage. He should be flexed out as a wide receiver. I mean, think what Sean Payton, I'm talking about Sean Payton again, which is ironic, but think what he did with Jimmy Graham when he was in his prime in New Orleans. He shouldn't be asked to block. I just don't think the way he's used in this offense, he's a great fit for the Packers. For the way they structure their offense and what they ask him to do. What's your grade, though, for Luke Musgrave from this past year?
It's tough. We always grade on a combination, or I do, of expectation and performance. And, did he contribute? Yes. Did they use him properly, as you alluded to? No. And the thing that frustrated me with Luke Musgrave is after Tucker Kraft got hurt, they just tried to plug him in and said, okay, go do what Tucker Kraft did. Mm-hmm. And he's not the same type of player as Tucker Kraft. He has a very different body type, a very different skill set. And it took them like 3 weeks to figure out that something that you and I could have told them, before the injury to Tucker Kraft even happened, that you got to utilize a guy with Luke Musgrave's skill set differently than you got to utilize Tucker Kraft. But I can't go higher than a B-. If he would have actually stayed on his feet more often, I could maybe go to a B. I'm going B- with Luke Musgrave.
I'm going C+, but again, this is the hardest grade to give, though, of this group, because it's just he's playing out of position, in my opinion. But again, like when you look at the Shanahan, McVay, LaFleur offenses, they ask their tight ends to do a lot of blocking. They move them around like they are a significant, very important chess piece on all their offensive units. And Luke Musgrave is just not part of an offense that can excel in this kind of offense. He isn't. And I wouldn't be surprised where the Packers we've talked about where I wouldn't be surprised if they draft a tight end just because of Tucker Kraft's health and because the depth of the position just isn't really spectacular right now. But you could trade him to a team that will use him more as a receiver. I mean, I just think too, if Luke Musgrave were in the Mike McCarthy offense, Gil, he would have excelled because the amount of times they flexed out Jermichael Finley and how he just ate in the receiving game. I feel like that could be Luke Musgrave too. He's just not put in that spot very often.
I agree. But yet, there's still the thing of, unless you do the thing, we don't know you could do the thing. So like you said, I think he is the hardest player to grade. I still think he has potential. A lot of people forget that coming out of training camp in his rookie year, he beat Tucker Kraft. He was the starter until he suffered the lacerated kidney. Mm-hmm. And I always kind of wonder in the back of my head, if he would have stayed healthy, would he have taken off and found the right role in this team? I still think he can do it, but he's got to do it.
Contract year coming up for him. Very, very critical. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the future entails for Luke Musgrave. And lastly, we talked about him. You just mentioned him a few minutes ago. Tucker Kraft, 8 games last year, was on an awesome pace. 32 catches, 489 yards, had 6 touchdowns. He had 6 receptions of 20 or more yards. He led the team all year, the entire season, with 344 yards after the catch. He was on his way to breaking all the single-season Packer tight end records until he tore his ACL in that loss against Carolina. I mean, Gil, the Packers made a point to make him a focal point in the passing game and in the offense in general. He was nails. He's a willing run blocker. He's incredibly hard to bring down on first contact, which I've always wanted in a Packer tight end for so long.
Yes.
He's excellent in the passing game. He and Christian Watson are probably the most important players outside of Jordan Love in this Packers offense. Gil, what's your grade for Tucker Kraft from this past year?
I got to go A. If he would have stayed healthy, it could have been higher. I mean, what else can you ask of the guy? You want him to be a little bit more of a better blocker? Okay, maybe I could understand that criticism, but he does everything you could ask of a tight end and then some. He was on pace, as you mentioned, to become the first 1,000-yard receiver in Packers history at tight end. Hard to believe that, nobody has done that yet. I think he still may do it if he returns to form after he's healthy.
He gets an A in my book as well, Gil. He probably would have been A+ if he played the whole year, honestly. It's just because if he would have broken all these records, and if he would have led the Packers in all these receiving categories, absolutely he would have gotten that kind of grade. Also, I'm a little biased because he did jump onto me in a Lambeau leap in week 2. I did get to hold him. I high-fived him. I made eye contact with him in the stands. So he gets he'll always have a special place in my Packer heart. So
understood.
I just hope he can come back. He's entering a contract year 2. Very, very important time for Tucker Kraft. And I just hope, he just feels like a guy who's going to crush the ACL recovery and he's going to come back better than ever. I feel like he's going to be like, maybe I'm hoping he's like Christian Watson, him coming back.
Yes.
So incomplete grade in this group includes Drake Dabney. He played really in the final game, wasn't really a big factor. So Drake Dabney, incomplete grade. Let's go to the receiver group though, Gil. A little bit of a big group, a lot of guys who got a lot of opportunities here. We're going to try to zoom through this real quick before we wrap up. Let's start with Malik Heath, now a former Packer. In 11 games, he had 6 catches for 86 yards. He was released midway through the season. I always liked Malik Heath, but someone's going to get the short end of the stick at the wide receiver spot after Christian Watson returned from his ACL injury. Reportedly had some conduct detrimental issues within the team, which could have led to his release as well. He also didn't travel with them to that game in New York. What was your grade for Malik Heath?
I got to go C+ again. I think he, did what he needed to do when he was on the field. The off the field issues may have facilitated his release, but it was also a numbers game, I think, to a large extent. He always blocked, always liked, his blocking ability.
Yes.
And when he needed to step up as a receiver several times, he did. Now, that was maybe more in 2024 than in 2025, but I'll go C+ as a 5th or 6th receiver. He's very good.
Yeah, he's a C+ in my book as well. I hope he does well throughout his NFL career. We don't know what really happened, what transpired and everything like that, but it sounded like it was best for him and the Packers to part ways when they did. Yeah. Let's go to Bo Melton, cornerback Bo Melton, who didn't play a snap at corner, but played a lot of receiver. 16 games. He had 4 catches for 107 yards and a touchdown. Also 5 carries for 35 yards. Mainly played a lot of special teams, but he did get some run at receiver this year. I like Bo Melton. I think the coaches love Bo Melton more than I do. What's your grade for Bo Melton from this past year?
As a receiver, I've got to give him an incomplete. I just don't think there's a big enough sample size there. He did what he could do when he was called upon, but 4 catches, it's very hard to give a guy a grade.
Yeah, he played a huge part though in that win at Lambeau against the Bears. He did. He did. Yeah, so that's kind of hard where you're grading the player more so than the receiver, and I feel like he's a C+ player. He's an average player, and he's a guy who the coaches love and teammates love too. Let's go to Savion Williams, rookie 3rd-round pick out of TCU this past year. 12 games, 10 receptions, 78 yards, had a touchdown, 11 carries for 37 yards. He struggled though with injuries. But like Musgrave, I don't think Savion Williams is being used the right way in the Packers offense. Get him lined up in the backfield as a running back or get vertical with him. I don't really like him as an end-around screen guy. What's your grade for Savion Williams from his first season?
Also going C+. I don't think he was used as well as he could have been. He showed some flashes, but wasn't consistent. Expectations for a rookie are not that high as far as how much he'll contribute. I think he met expectations more or less.
I'm with you, C+, and I'm just gonna leave it at that. Let's go to Dontavian Wicks. 14 games this past year, 30 receptions, 332 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Drops weren't really an issue for him this year, as opposed to 2025 or 2024. Health was mainly the issue with Dontavian Wicks, and he still was able to play 14 games. Now, the tools are there for Dontavian Wicks. I feel like he just needs to put it together and stay healthy. He's going into a contract year next year, Gil. What was your grade, though, from 2025 for Dontavian Wicks?
I go B-. I still like his potential. The consistency, as you said, is not there yet. Drops went down from 9 to 2, which is very, very impressive, and I give him a lot of credit for working on that. And, he had a 100-yard game Thanksgiving against Detroit that was instrumental in that win. So he had flashes, but just wasn't on the field enough for me to go higher than a B-.
He had that tough contested catch late in the game on 4th down to seal the deal on Thanksgiving in Detroit. That was beautiful. And that was something where it's like, yeah, this guy's talented. And there's a reason why he's up in trade discussions too. But I give him a B- as well, Gil. I think there's so much there, but you just wonder if there's enough room for him down the road moving forward. Let's go to Matthew Golden, the rookie 1st-round pick out of Texas. 14 games last year, 29 receptions, 361 yards, had 10 carries also for 49 yards. Kind of similar to Musgrave and Savion Williams. I didn't like the way he was used last year and felt we should have seen more of him featured in the offense. I mean, you saw what he did in the playoffs against Chicago. 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. But he's an example of what the Packers do with rookies. They very rarely throw them into the fire right away. They kind of just let them grow internally and organically. I expect bigger things for Golden in year 2, but how was year 1 in your book?
I'm going to go B- as well. I was expecting a little more. I don't think they utilized him particularly well. It was frustrating because, Matt LaFleur is so good at scheming receivers open, and he did that for Savion Williams at times, and he did it for a lot of other receivers. He didn't seem to do it very often for Matthew Golden. that playoff game gave me more hope, but I'm sticking with B-.
Yeah, B-. I'm there too. I think he's just a tick higher than Savion Williams, and that's why I put him at that grade, because he was a little better than Savion, but he's going to have the Romeo Doubs role next year. It's just a matter of, can he do it? That's going to be very interesting. I think his hands are awesome, and I think Jordan Love has got a lot of faith in him. I think there are good things coming from Matthew Golden. Jaden Reed, 7 games this past year, 19 receptions, 207 yards and a touchdown, 3 carries for 28 yards. Now, he's a stud, but he entered the season with that foot injury. Then he broke his collarbone in week 2. Wasn't really right after returning from injury a few months later. What's your grade for Jaden Reed from 2025?
I'm tempted to go incomplete.
Yeah.
If I had to give him a letter, I guess it would be a B-. But he, it's 7 games. But what, the game week 1 he played with a Jones fracture.
Yeah.
Week 2 he plays with a Jones fracture, makes an unbelievable touchdown catch in the first quarter, and is
right in front of me.
Yeah,
right in front of me.
Yeah, and so it doesn't even count after all of that effort and all of that amazing. The play was great. So he plays 7 games. One of them he plays barely a quarter. He comes back on a play count. I'm going incomplete.
Yeah, I would just go B-, and it's mainly because he had that big drop in Chicago in the playoffs, where it's like he catches that ball, the Packers probably win that game, and everyone knew it. I mean, Jordan Love, that was the most visually frustrated I think I've ever seen him since he's taken over as the Packers' full-time starting quarterback. And he knew it too. It's like we had the game right there, and Jaden Reed knew it too. And it's like that's something where I feel like he's going to bounce back and everything. But yeah, I remember when he broke his collarbone in week 2, Gills, right in front of me. You could hear the break. It was bad. Like the way he slammed against the ground, it was bad. It's hard to come back from a serious injury like that. It's amazing Aaron Rodgers did it multiple times with a collarbone, but it's hard, especially when you're a receiver and you're not the biggest guy like Jaden Reed.
No doubt. And this is his contract year as well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. People forget he led the team in catches in each of his first 2 seasons, and he didn't see the field as much as most of the other receivers.
And he's got more opportunities as well because Romeo Doubs, he's no longer a Green Bay Packer. He signed with the New England Patriots a few weeks ago. His final year with the Packers, in 16 games, had 55 catches, 724 yards, 6 touchdowns. He had 12 catches of 20 or more yards. Big player on third down for Jordan Love and the Packers. He got that nice payday in free agency. Solid player, dependable on those gotta-have-it situations, but he felt like he was in the same boat as Rasheed Walker for me, where it's a matter of like you have other guys who you're willing to pay more so than him. It's not a knock on him. It's just that's the way it goes, and that's the business of football. But what was your grade for Romeo Doubs?
Solid B+ for Romeo Doubs. I think he maximizes the talent that he has, and he's steady and he's solid, but he's not spectacular. He's not a game breaker. He is that reliable 3rd and 7. He'll get you 9. But more often than not, he's not the big play guy. He's not the superstar guy. So I give him a very solid B+, close to an A-, but not quite.
I give him a B just because, again, it's like I think it's just like you said, he maxes out the talent that he's given, and it's a credit to him. And I'm really happy that he got a really nice payday in free agency. But just the Packers, they have more guys who in that building who are more important to make sure they stick around beyond the next few years or so than Romeo Doubs. Lastly, Christian Watson, 10 games last year, 35 receptions, 611 yards, 17.5 yards per catch, had 11 catches of 20 or more yards. He looked amazing, Gil, after coming back from his ACL tear at the end of the 2024 season. Hands were not an issue this year. He and Tucker Kraft, I feel like, are the most important pieces to this Packers offense. Of all the receivers up for new contracts in the next couple of years, he's the one guy at wide receiver I'd say you have to keep. What was your grade for Christian Watson last year?
I gave him a B+. I would have gone A- if he played more games, and that's not his fault. He's recovering from the ACL surgery. The thing I love about Watson this year, he became a complete wide receiver.
Yeah.
He wasn't just the MVS, I'm going to throw it 50 yards down the field and he'll get there, I hope. He ran the out routes. He ran short and intermediate routes. He came through in the clutch. A little more consistency would be great, but I think he's a solid B+, close to an A-.
And the thing is, it's funny. You say where it's, and I know it's like I wish he would have played more games this year too, Gil, and I understand that, but him playing 10 games after tearing his ACL in the final regular season game the year before, that's enough for me to give him an A-. And how well he played too. He clearly wasn't rushed back. The Packers had to clearly ease him back. And I love this guy, man. He's a team guy through and through. He's so explosive. He can get you. He's the same attitude if he gets no balls thrown his way or multiple, and if he scores multiple times or doesn't see the end zone for a few weeks, he's the same guy through and through. He's the guy that I feel like is going to, you need that guy in the receiver room for the foreseeable future.
I hope they sign him to a nice extension even before this season starts. Staying healthy, a huge key, but I think he took his game to another level this year.
Yeah, and an incomplete grade, also incomplete grades in this group. Jacoby Keeney James and Will Shepard got very limited time this year on the Packers 53-man roster. Gil, we kind of ran a little long, but hey, we got all the offensive grades through. That's what matters. We got the job done.
Yes.
What articles do you have online for the Packers Post and Cheesehead TV?
Well, for the Packers Post, I'm taking a look at players on both sides of the ball that are at a crossroads in their career, that 2026 is going to maybe determine whether they become full-time starters or even stars, or they become journeyman players who, either sign a minimal deal or have to look elsewhere for employment, become a career backup. So that was that. I haven't written my Cheesehead article yet, so I'm not sure what it's going to be, but I'll know in a few hours. So we'll get that up. Your
mind's always working. You'll get
it. Is always working. Yes.
Pen to paper. It'll happen soon enough.
Yes.
Gil, how about some trivia?
Let's do it.
Well, we just wrapped up grading the 2025 Packers tight ends and wide receivers. The wide receiver room is going to look a little different in 2026, as we mentioned before. Romeo Doubs no longer a Packer. The team added veteran wide receiver and return man Sky Moore a few weeks ago. And Moore was a second-round pick out of Western Michigan. He was a star for the Broncos, finishing his collegiate career in Kalamazoo, 8th all-time in catches and 7th all-time in receiving yards. Packers have some ties to Western Michigan. Gil, who is Western Michigan's 4th and 51st all-time leading receivers in their football program's history? And obviously Packer ties, because I'm going 4th and 51st.
Yeah, well, Greg Jennings has got to be 1, I would think.
Yeah, Greg Jennings is 4th.
Okay. Yeah. I didn't think he was 50.
He was amazing at Western. Yep.
Yes. Western Michigan. Boy.
This is a tough one, because he started his career at Western Michigan, but he didn't end there.
That is going to be tough.
But it's within it was within the last 5 years.
Jaden Reed,
you nailed it. Yep. Greg Jennings, he was drafted in the 2nd round by the Packers in 2006 after shining at Western Michigan for 4 years, from 2002 through 2005. The eventual Packers Hall of Famer caught 238 passes for 3,539 yards and scored 39 touchdowns for the Broncos during his time. He left Western Michigan as the school's all-time leader in career receptions and yards, and was 2nd in touchdowns at the time he left, but he's currently top 5 all-time in all those categories today. Reed was at Western Michigan for 1 season in 2018 before transferring to Michigan State, caught 56 passes for 797 yards, and scored 8 touchdowns in his lone season in Kalamazoo. Now, going back to Jennings, though, Gil, he was amazing. His freshman year at Western, he only caught 10 passes for 138 yards. So his last 3 years, he caught 228 passes for 3,401 yards and scored 39 touchdowns. He was electric, man. And I know he had a salty exit from Green Bay, but man, that guy was easily the best receiver when he was in Green Bay. He was incredible.
He was great. He was fun to watch. He came up big so many times. Always was a big Greg Jennings fan.
I know a lot of people still are kind of iffy about Greg Jennings and being in the Packers Hall of Fame, but dude, like, the guy deserves to go to the Packer Hall of Fame. He 100% does. He was so freaking good. It's just, again, at the time, loaded receiver room, business of football, man. And the thing is, the Packers got out of the Greg Jennings business at the perfect time, because he didn't play much longer after that, after he was done in Green Bay.
Timing is everything, right? That's
not a year early, not a year late, right?
Absolutely. All right. Well, that is going to do it for us today. We'll be right back here next week. Follow us on Twitter at Go Packers and at Packers on all things Packers, or to ask us questions. Or you can email us at gbpackerssean@gmail.com. Make sure you're subscribed to Packers Talk on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Big thanks to PackersTalk.com for powering our show. Thank you for listening. Until next time, go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.